attorney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, also host of the podcast Common Sense and Chat with the Mayor show on WABC Radio in New York. Rudy, great to see you. And this is
good to see you.
Extraordinary expose, and it is so powerful, so important that the American public know what's happening. Your role in it has been central, and that of your attorney. Can you quickly tell us how you came to be at the center of this?
Sure.
And that these got to the New York Post.
You know what? I'll tell you what convinces me that this is very damaging. All they do is attack the process and attack me and attack the people who found it. They can't attack any of the substance of the emails, the texts, or the photographs, which are clearly Hunter Biden's. No question about it. And I'll explain that in a minute. So here's how we found out about it. Hunter Biden brought this hard drive in to be repaired, I'm going to say about a year and a half ago. He left it with a merchant. The merchant repaired it and then tried to reach Hunter Biden to give it back to him. He could never reach him. 90 days passed. At 90 days, according to the agreement signed by Hunter Biden, which I have a copy of, the hard drive was abandoned, became the property of the merchant. A few months later, the merchant started hearing these things on television that the Bidens were saying and was being said about them, and he became very nervous, and he decided he better take a look at what he had because it might be criminal in nature. So he opened it up, looked at it, and his words were shocked. He said he was shocked when he looked at it because he said the pictures were disgusting, they were dirty, they were pornographic, and they had evidence, clear evidence of any number of crimes right on the pictures. And then he said he went to the texts and the emails, and even though he didn't know much about the situation, it was clear they were hiding money, laundering money, involved with the foreign countries we said they were involved in. He was particularly angry because I was being attacked about Ukraine, and it showed the whole Ukrainian transaction. So he called in the FBI. He gave it to the FBI. He told the FBI agent that he was afraid that something might happen to him. And the FBI agent told him,
what time period was this?
Very odd statement. So this would be about the time of the impeachment. And he told the FBI agent, I'm very worried. I could be in a lot of trouble here. They could hurt me. The Bidens are very powerful around here. And the FBI agent said, well, if you keep your mouth shut, nothing will happen to you. And that became the attitude of the FBI. For 6 months, they did nothing about it. Nothing. As far as I know, they didn't interview anybody. They didn't investigate. They never called them back. He then sent letters to 4 or 5 different individuals, to me, Senator Johnson, several others, I think, Jim Jordan. And my lawyer got a copy of the letter to me originally. And when he saw it, he said, look, I'll go talk to him. I'll vet him. The guy could be a nut or he could be for real. We've had both, right? So Bob, who is an experienced trial lawyer, former assistant U.S. attorney, lawyer for George Steinbrenner, he went to visit him. He spent several days with him. He vetted the whole thing. He authenticated the hard drive about 5 different ways and made an agreement with the guy. Really? He gave us a copy of it. Yep.
You said that you'd been
and we've been cataloging it since then.
You had been threatened. Right. This is a very big deal to paraphrase Joe Biden.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, we watched Twitter and Facebook shut down this country's social media platforms, just to keep that story out of yesterday's news cycle. They relented today. By the way, they also blocked me for a short term and the new one of the installments of the New York Post reports. But right now, this material is so damning for the Bidens. The national media isn't even, the left-wing media isn't even asking questions of it, and they've had 2 perfect opportunities to do so. Your thoughts about what has to be done now that this material is out? Has the Attorney General called you? Has anyone from the Justice Department? Is anyone wanting to find out what's going on? I mean, the Democrats have used a a news story as a predicate to prosecute and investigate against Republicans.
Well, I mean, I put out a text message last night that reads as follows. It's from Hunter Biden to his daughter at a moment of frustration toward the end of this whole cycle. He basically says, no one in the family respects me, despite the fact that I've been supporting the family for 30 years. And Pop requires me to kick back half of my income to him. Well, that really explains the RICO case I've been talking to you about for a year. For years, 30 years, the Biden family sells Biden's public office. They keep the money with Hunter or Jim or Sarah. They take care of all of Joe's expenses, and they kick back half to Joe. It's a quite typical Chinese corruption arrangement, which is outlined in Peter Schweiger's book. The Chinese use this a lot, and that's where they probably learned this. And basically, Hunter Biden is a drug-addicted bagman for his father. Now, it's a very simple, and that you can simplify it to the old-fashioned corruption cases.
Well, you're one of the countries at one time one of the country's foremost in U.S. attorneys and prosecutors. Is there not enough in all that the New York Post has reported, plus whatever you may or may have additionally? But is there not enough here for a full-fledged investigation? I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars from China, Russia, and Ukraine.
Given the evidence that I've turned over to them going back to January of last year, I mean, there's enough for a conviction. I mean, I would rate this case as one of the easier RICO cases that I ever had, and I'm the one who started the RICO prosecutions, not only of the mafia, but of white-collar crime and political corruption. This is about as easy a case as you're going to get at this level. You've got 5 witnesses. You've got video confession. You've got now emails that are damning, and you have an explanation of the distribution of the illegal money that Hunter Biden provides. And there are more emails and texts that explain how Hunter Biden divides the money and the father gets some of the money. So Joe, when Mr. Zlochevsky wanted to get his company out of trouble, the most crooked man in Ukraine, he hired Hunter. But that money was for Joe, and it was for Joe to save his company, which in fact he did. In February of 2016, the prosecutor who supposedly wasn't investigating the case, which is a big lie. But yep.
Rudy, I've got to interrupt you because we're coming up against one of those computer-driven hard outs. Your sense of the urgency at the Justice Department to find out what is going on, both to go after social media and big tech for absolutely shutting down the freedom of speech and free expression in this country on this story, on this candidate, and this evidence that looks, as you say, looks to you like a conviction, but worthy of investigation. And immediately, we're 18 days away from a presidential election. Will Bill Barr do anything? Will Bill Barr's attorney, his Justice Department, do a thing? We got 30 seconds.
There have been so many of these that I think it is absolutely necessary that both Bill Barr and Christopher Wray, as soon as the president comes back, sit down with him and explain what the hell they're doing. I mean, you look at the Brennan thing last week. That was hidden for 4 years. We never had to have the impeachment inquiry. Right. I gave them all this evidence. I gave them all this evidence a year ago. They did nothing with it. Ukrainians gave them this evidence 2.5 years ago. They did nothing with it. It's an outrage. We don't have a justice system in this country.
I think the American people, I think the American people are, if they weren't already aware of it, this certainly should be the final requisite eye-opener for everybody. Rudy Giuliani, it's always great to see you. Thanks so much for your time. Good to see you.
Moments ago, and